Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Amy from Eat, Breathe, Move, and I am here today to talk about how to feed yourself during the week, especially when you're working a full-time job. And I guess I feel like I've avoided talking about this all along because it's the thing that I've struggled with most over the years. Like the nutrition part was easy, knowing what I'm supposed to eat and why. I totally got that. But when it came down to going to the grocery store, having that stuff in front of me and like just having the proper pantry stocked and just how to put this shit together, I've just struggled with this so much until literally when I was forced to actually have to deal with it. So as I've mentioned before, I moved from San Francisco to Sacramento, and now I'm actually working in Folsom. So when I was working downtown San Francisco, there was a Mixed Greens right near me, so it was super easy to go get a salad. And then there were just other pretty decent restaurants around me, so I could go grab something for lunch, so I never really had to think about what to eat for lunch. And then I would always just get a big lunch, so I wouldn't have to prepare much for dinner. You know, maybe just some soup or just my leftover lunch would often be fine. So now in Folsom, there just isn't really any place close by that I like that much. So now I'm having to bring my lunch. I probably bring it, I would say at least 90% of the time. There were 2 days this week that I didn't bring my lunch, but that was the first time in probably 2 or 3 weeks that I haven't brought my lunch with me. So just give me 1 second. I'm gonna share this video into my group, and I invite you to come over to my group if you're not already in there. So that's just Eat, Breathe Community. You can just go up into the search bar, put Eat, Breathe Community, and it should pop up. So there, it's what I like about the group more than the page is that it's more of a conversation. The group members can post as well, and I have people in there that share other recipes and things that work for them. And it's just more of a conversation where I think the page is more dictating to, you know, what I am telling you, as opposed to a back and forth. So that's why I like the page. But back to feeding yourself. Okay, so I'm gonna go over what I figured out and what works for me. So this is what I've been doing the last, let's say, 2 months. So when I get to the point that I know it's time to go to the grocery store, I get out my favorite cookbooks. These are the cookbooks that I know the recipes are easy. The ingredients, for the most part, aren't esoteric, so it's stuff that I'm going to be able to use more often than not. And I'm not going to buy it one-off and then never use it again, so it ends up in the grocery store. There are a couple of recipes that are great for freezing and reheating that are kind of my go-to lunches, so I'll just make those over and over again. And you know, they're recipes that I've practiced on. But if you have a cookbook and you haven't made the recipes out of it, because how many people have bought a cookbook because they like the pictures but have never cooked out of it? I have a few. I can see them from here. So don't let that stop you. My goal right now is even just to start cooking out of those. And so I'm going to show you my favorites. And if you watched any of these videos, these will all be familiar to you, and they're all going to be backwards, but I trust your ability to figure out what these things say, even though there's backwards. So this is my favoriteest cookbook, Zen Belly. Simone Miller is amazing. She lives in San Francisco, and I had the good fortune of going to one of her pop-up dinners and got to sit at the counter and watch her prep stuff, and it was pretty cool. So what I like about this is, at the beginning, as with most cookbooks, there's kind of a how to cook section. Don't skip that part. If you're a new cook, don't skip that part. Look at it, read it, and practice the tips in there. So she has, I loved this, how to cook, I have no idea how to say it, papillote. And basically you just wrap stuff in parchment paper and cook it. I made fish that way and it was great. So my favorite recipe in here is called Moroccan Shepherd's Pie. And this is, I think I know the page number by heart. This is my go-to recipe for my lunches because it I was right. It freezes really well. So this is Moroccan Shepherd's Pie, and I love the flavor. It has cumin, coriander, cardamom, cinnamon, clove. It's ground meat, lamb or beef, carrots and onions, and sweet potatoes over the top, and then you just bake it all. What's great is you can scoop this up, put it in the little glass containers I've talked about before. Let me show you that. I love these containers. They're glass. You don't want to put anything hot in plastic. And this is a perfect size lunch for me. So I know exactly, like, this is what I'm going to eat for lunch, and that'll be filling. So that the Moroccan Shepherd's Pie. This is Practical Paleo. This was probably my first paleo cookbook, and Zen Belly is also paleo-ish. What I like about my go-to meal in here is a spaghetti squash bolognese, and that's what I'm making this week. I haven't made it in a long time, so I'm going to make it this week for my lunch. And again, it's very similar in that to the Moroccan Shepherd's Pie, in that it freezes well, reheats well, and is conducive to taking for lunch. The one thing I will say about Practical Paleo is you need to play with the seasoning. I find some of these are fairly bland. Like I made a swirly crustless quiche that called for 1 teaspoon of rosemary salt in a dozen eggs. No, I probably put at least a tablespoon, if not more. So what you do is you kind of follow the recipe, you taste as you go, and you make adjustments. I write notes in my cookbooks when I've made modifications to the recipe, whether I'll either double it or sometimes it calls for a lot more oil than I think is necessary. So I'll make those notes in the cookbook. So again, this is what I'm going to be cooking out this week. And then the other thing that I've been doing lately that's been really working for me is making a big pot of soup. The last, I'd say, month or so, I was working long hours and not getting home until between 8 and 9 for the most part. And when I got home, I just didn't want a big dinner. I want something a little light, but I'm going to need to eat or else my blood sugar is just going to be too low in the morning to deal. So I've been making soups. This is, again, from Simone Miller from Zen Belly. This is her paleo soups and stews. And I would, again, say it's mostly paleo-ish. But oh my gosh, everything I've made in this cookbook so far has been great. And the other thing that I love that she does in this cookbook is she breaks her recipes out by season. So you can see there's a fall and a winter. So I've been making the winter's soup. I made a sweet potato soup with chipotle and lime. I made a 30 clove of garlic soup, which was really good, and I will definitely make again. I made the sweet and sour cabbage soup. And then the caldo verde, which is a Portuguese potato soup, again, super tasty. And now I'm going to move over to spring and start making stuff. So in spring, I am making what I went to the grocery store today to get is for the Moroccan vegetable stew. So I'll make this. I'll freeze probably one big, those giant coconut oil glass jars. I keep those when it's empty, and it's great. I'll fill up one of those, and I always put at least one in the freezer so that I can have it when I haven't made it to the grocery store in a while. I do that also with the Moroccan Shepherd's Pie. I'll serve up maybe 4 or 5 of the dishes for lunch, and then I'll put it in the freezer. And actually that's what I'm eating this week because I haven't been to the grocery store. I didn't go to the grocery store last week, so I was out of food. I was eating my Tasty Bites, and when I'm eating my Tasty Bites, it means there's nothing else in the house except for sardines, which I always have. All right, and then the other cookbook I've been liking a lot is the JJ Virgin diet. Her philosophy is eliminating highly allergic foods. So there's seven ingredients that are really the most allergenic to people, and that's gluten, dairy, peanuts, eggs, corn, soy, and sugar and artificial sweeteners. And so her cookbook eliminates all of those, and the recipes are really easy. I made a chickpea spinach curry dish out of here, and it was really good. And so I would take that, I had some mashed parsnips, and then I cut up some smoked duck breast that I get at the grocery store that's already cooked, and that was my lunch. So, and then one more. This is, I actually want to get a cover for this and make something. This is what I call my Chez Amis cookbook. These are the recipes that I get offline and out of magazines that I just want to keep track of. So all the recipes, believe me, I haven't used all of these. There's kind of a lot, but I use these ones in the front. Again, I'm making copies of them. I'm writing notes on it so that the next time I go to make the recipe, I'm going to know what I learned the first time, because let me tell you, if you make a recipe and don't go back to it for 6 months, you're probably going to make the same mistake if you had a learning experience that first time. So I really recommend everyone have their own little house cookbook for recipes that they just find along the way that aren't part of a cookbook, because you know, these are my go-to things. I have this oven roasted Dungeness crab that I love a lot that I make for people. I just got this mango jicama guacamole that I posted the recipe in the group if you're interested in that. We talked about the squashes bake, which is another go-to recipe for me, which is just sausage, onion, chard, and some sort of squash over the top. Again, it reheats well, freezes well, and it's really easy for lunch. And so, yeah, so these are what I've been going to lately when I do my meal planning. So I invite you this week to go into one of the cookbooks you have at home. If you don't have a cookbook you like, there are so many recipes on the internet. Simone Miller at Zenbelly, she has a whole recipe section, so you don't even need to buy her cookbook. You can just go to her website, and that's how I started with her. I made a cocoa chili rubbed pork shoulder that she had, and it was great. So you don't have to spend money to find recipes. Right now, the internet, there's so many recipes on the internet, you'll just get lost. So I recommend you kind of just pick a person when you realize you like their flavor. And so, you know, I really love the flavors that Zenbelly uses, so I just try her stuff. And again, the only way you're gonna get good at cooking is if you cook. So I hear so many people say, oh, I can't cook. Well, you know what? We were born not knowing how to do anything. So you're gonna have to learn. And the only way to learn is to practice. You just chop. If you can't cut an onion, go onto YouTube, find a video that shows you how to cut an onion. If you can't cut a pepper, I mean, the resources out there are limitless. All you have to do is make the effort to find them. And the way you're going to get good at cooking is to cook. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I believe I said on one of these videos that, you know, even as little as 2 years ago, I was very uncomfortable cooking for other people. You know, I'm more than happy to eat my own food. I've been kind of just trained myself over the years to eat what's in front of me because I just didn't have the wherewithal to prepare it myself. And now I would call myself a confident cook. I would invite people over and not worry. I wouldn't, you know, discount the food that I made and just kind of lower their expectations. Now I know people like what I make, and the way I got there was by cooking, and that's the only way you're going to get there too. So if you're sitting right there and going, I can't do that because I can't cook, shut up, pick up a knife, get a cookbook, and start. Because if you don't cook, if you say you can't cook now and you don't do anything to change that, a year from now, you're going to be in the same situation. And it really is not as hard as we make it. We are fighting an uphill battle here, going against advertising, because then a lot of the food commercials, and luckily, you know, I don't watch commercial television. I go out of my way to avoid commercials, but when I do see them, especially with processed food, it's all cooking is too hard, it takes too long. And yeah, you know, feeding yourself takes effort, as it should. You know, if it were, you know, it's easier than it used to be. At least we don't have to kill our food and go hunting and gathering it. You just have to go to the grocery store, find one recipe you like, and practice. Just keep practicing. I started with one recipe and I just kept making it, and then I would venture off to other recipes. If you have a friend that cooks, go cook with them. That's another way that I started. I remember, you know, kind of being the sous chef for a friend of mine, that she would have me chop the stuff while she was doing all the mixing and cooking. And then, you know, at yoga retreats, I would sit at the counter of Meredith, the woman who cooked, and she really inspired me to start thinking about food as energy and wanting to be a part of that process to feed myself. So that's, I think, a great way to learn, because then you can ask them questions too about why they're doing something a certain way. And my friend Tamara, where I was staying up over the fall, up in the Sierra foothills, every night almost, I would go up and I was kind of the sous chef. I would chop and prep, and I would just watch her and see what she was doing and ask her questions. And I think that went a long way to getting me where I am not right now. So if you have a friend that cooks, ask them if you can come help them cook. That, you know, as someone who's been cooking more and more, if I could have someone chop the stuff, it goes so much more quickly. I don't think that's proper grammar, but you know what I mean. So I invite you to cook this week, or, you know, at least prep. Get your cookbooks out and start flipping through them and see if there's a recipe that you like. Because until you start investigating, you know, you're not going to make any progress. So this is the first step for me in feeding myself. I go through my cookbooks. Generally I look for side dishes, because the meat part's easy. Today I went to the grocery store and I just got a pork chop. So I'll have a side dish and I'll have the pork chop, and that'll be super simple. But yeah, so go through the cookbook, find a recipe, and I'm going to continue on this How to Feed Yourself series. I'm going to talk about prepping the list and going grocery shopping and just getting organized around it. But really the first step is sitting down and figuring out what you're going to eat for the week. And so what I'm going to make is I'm going to make the Moroccan vegetable stew. Got it listed on my refrigerator. And I'm going to make the spaghetti squash bolognese out of Practical Paleo. So that will be lunch and a bit of dinner every, you know, hopefully it'll last the whole week, and then I'll also have it in the freezer. And if it doesn't last the whole week, I've got the pork chop. I also bought a smoked turkey leg. Again, I got some Tasty Bites if things get desperate. And yeah, so it's good to have food in the house. I bought some ingredients to make the squash bake too. Might not do that until, you know, mid or late week. So if you have any questions about how to prep or where you struggle, because if you could clarify where you're struggling, because I used to just say I can't feed myself, and I know that a lot of people have that same struggle, but kind of break it down for me. Where is it? The grocery shopping? Is it the figuring out what you want to eat? Or is it just the cooking it? You know, that maybe you don't have a good knife, or maybe you just don't feel like you're a confident cook. Let me know where your struggle is, and I can address those specifically in the future videos on this series. And, you know, I invite you to just try it. Just try to start cooking. What you make, I have to believe that almost anything that you cook is going to be more healthy than anything you could get at a restaurant, definitely at a fast food place, and even the food bar at Whole Foods. Again, just everything has canola oil in it, and I'm very particular about my oils, although I'll eat it, you know, when things are desperate, I'll eat it. So Again, put your questions and where you struggle in the comments below. If you resonate with this message, please, please, and you know other people that can be helped by this, share the video. I'll also put a link in there in the comments to my 7-day Reclaim Your Energy challenge. This is a challenge that I put together to show you that you can incorporate healthy habits into your day without taking an inordinate amount of time that will move you on your path of healthfulness. And then if you have, if you think that working with a coach would be helpful to you, maybe you have, you're just so lost or so frustrated that you can't figure out where to start and you'd like some help, please feel free to PM me and we can get on a call and talk about what I've learned over the years and how that can help you. So thanks for listening. It's Saturday morning. I've been up, I went to the co-op, I went to Whole Foods, and I've done this video. It's 11:30 and now I'm, ready to start my day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know in the comments below what your favorite part was or what you think I may have left out, and I'm happy to fill in any blanks in future videos. So have a great Sunday. If it's raining where you are, as it is where I am, we're having a crazy storm these last 2 days. Enjoy a nice warm day inside, and I will see you again tomorrow. Bye.